Hi. I often get a question that while working on wet painting, especially when we are doing one day or on another, there's no shine in painting that we get in oil and acrylic. First, let us understand oil and acrylic. They are oil based solubles. Hence, the shine is available because of the oil which is present in them, and also you can varnish on them. But it's not that in water paint we cannot get a shine. So, and in water paint, we get a very natural shine which we get because of water and the use of color. One thing is very important to understand over here is that water and balance of color has to be maintained. So, today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and answer these questions that how do we get those balance in water and color, and how can we get the shine wherever required. So that's why I've already stuck my paper here. The reason I always stuck it with masking tape is not only to keep my borders clean, but also to make sure that the edges, all these corners are not left out. Because generally if we draw a border with pencil and all, we are very, very scared that what if it goes outside the border, then the border will look dirty and all that. But we are able to complete our painting and it doesn't give an incomplete kind of a look. Also, the colors that I would be needing for this particular drawing are blues and greens and raw umbers and the basic colors. So I already have them in my palette. I have one blue here, one blue here, the greens, I have a little bit of black also over here. I have raw umber ready, I have yellow ochre, I have all the yellows. I have white also ready over here, and I have a bit of crimson and all, depending on whichever color I would need. Now, as I've always said, if the colors are already there and dried up in your palette, which was used for your previous paintings, please make sure before you start the painting, water has been added to your color so that it is ready for you to paint. Now, here, if you see, the water is already there. So now, let's begin with painting. Since it's a wet on wet, so we will first try and wet the paper. We'll apply water. And I'm working on a 300 GSM cold press white base paper. So sometimes water is not seen on a white paper, but if you apply good amount of water, it is easy for your paint to move around on its own. Now, if you can see, I have more or less applied water on the entire paper. Now I will begin with the first layer with my blue. So I'm going with Prussian blue. And if you see, I will just work like I'm just working with the basic tip of brush. Okay. And how can you make out that water is still there on paper? If you see, colors are moving on its own. I am just applying the color. Now there's no color in my brush, so I wash it. Of course, always please keep a piece of cloth to get rid of excess water. And now I'll take a bit of Cambodge. I'll take very little Cambodge here. Of course, a little watery base. Just get on the tip of my brush, and I'll apply in some places randomly. If you see, I am trying to not disturb the blue area where color has spread on its own. I'm just trying to blend between blue and white area. Now I have to let this dry. So I wash this is how it appears in the first layer when water is wet. It's not wet. Now I'm going to work on the bottom part. Now for bottom part, I'll reapply water, but I'm going to reapply water from this part, leaving a bit of gap between sky and here, because if you would have noticed, sky is coming down, but here I need a vertical layer. So I'll go with cobalt blue, again watery base. Now if you see, color and water both are almost at equal amount, but since color is a bit of watery base, so it's coming out very lightly. And here, if you notice, I am using the entire brush bristles because I need a horizontal effect over here. Okay, and then I'll take a little bit of Prussian blue again, and just with the tip, Here I've changed my brush. Earlier I was using brush number 8, now I'm going to use 2. And just try to create a wave kind of an effect over here. Which again, if you remember, which you should remember, that if you have water already in your paper, then you don't even need to create that effect. You just need to touch the brush and leave it over there. Just pull a line and the effect is created on its own. Clean your brush. I'll use a little more thin brush. I'm going to start with brush number 0 and I'm going to make these come towards down. Now let me just blend this area. Now if you see, I'm just using water and I'm going to just blend these two. Now let me take green. I'm going to use deep green or viridian green. For the tip of the brush, just small random bushes over here. And don't try to get the dark effect in the very first layer, because that is something, if you try, you will actually end up not getting the dark effect, but you will get the light effect only, because the water quantity right now is too much. And we are just trying to create a base layer. We are allowing our paper to soak enough color and enough water to give us the effect that we want towards the end of the drawing. Okay. Now my favorite, romber. Just going to create a kind of a border over here, like an outline, a demarcation or a separation line. Which I can then further extend it till here. Maybe kind of a pathway, where you can further add green. Now if you would have noticed, I did not wash my brush. I already had a romber in my brush, and I have dipped the same brush in deep green, viridian green, and I've started working with it. Right. Sorry. Now here goes your first layer. Now if you see, in these areas, sky has taken its turn on its own. Water has worked on its own. Right? So we don't have to basically do anything if you have enough sufficient water in your paper. This particular impact, many students of mine ask me that how do we get this? This is something, let me tell you, we are doing nothing. It's just the flow of water and where you applied color in what quantity is giving you that effect. In these areas, color was more. Hence, you get these dark patches, which is again spread, which is not like a spot or a blot, but it is spread. If you notice this, it has been spread, right? So that is what water does. Now, after this, obviously, I need not do anything in my sky. Now, whatever I will be working, I will be mainly working with my crown. Now, this is not yet dry, right? But it is enough dry for me to work with my second layer. So here I go with emerald green little bit, and I'm going to mix that with black. A bit of emerald green, mixing it with black, because now I need the dark. Now if you see, yes, you don't have that shine, but you have that, but you don't have a very dull effect. That is just because you have had sufficient water and sufficient color. So now you start. Now in this particular layer, the quantity of color has to be more than quantity of water. Now if you're working with a pony hair, remember pony hair absorbs a good amount of water, and you don't need to dip your brush every time in water unless you want to wash or change the color. that's the best part of working in water paint with pony hair brushes. But I am right now working with a squirrel hair, and pony hair, squirrel hair, horse hair, these are the best for watercolors. Synthetic is what we generally try and avoid because they don't absorb enough water and they don't release the colors in the same smooth way as a pony hair or a squirrel hair would do. Right now, if you're working with a little broader area, see, I'll again go with my dark green, which is mixed with black, so you get a very dirty green kind of a color over here, which I would like to add towards the bottom part of my page to show the depth and intensity in the painting. That'll be the bottom area, since that being the closest to our eye viewing place. And here I'm also using a little thicker brush because I want to cover a major area where I'm not adding too much of details. I'm just randomly giving it a look. So here it goes. Now, I know that this place hasn't dried and you can see that. But the reason I'm adding black over here right now, this dark black green, is because I want it to blend and I want that light effect to be shown from behind and the right and the dark to be shown from front. That will give you a look of front and back and far and near. Right. Right, now I'll take yellow ochre. And I want to add a bit of brownish effect. I know you must be wondering that I did a blue layer at the bottom, which is fine. Now if you see, I'm holding the brush absolutely at the metal area because I want to, and I'm working with tip of the brush because I want to add a bit of detail work. I want to show detail in my work now. Now here the thing that you need to notice is, this is how you take color in this, and the point that you have to notice here is, I am not adding yellow ochre on top of green or black area, but I am just adding and touching it at the edges, right? See here, I'm just touching the edges and it is getting blended to it on its own here. And all this is being done when my second layer, which I worked over here with dark green and black in effect, is already wet. It's not dry. I am not giving it time to dry. Please understand, in watercolor, once the paper is dry, once your water is not there, blending, mixing is a challenge. So all the magic has to be created when your water is still there in your color and on your paper, right? But of course, while I'm using yellow ochre, there's not much water in my brush. I have more color. Why I don't need water in my brush is because I have enough water on paper and the layer that I have applied before with green and blue and black color that was used here. So obviously I don't need much water on my brush right now. I need more color to bring that effect and to get that shine or the glaze or the look of color separately to be seen. Now here, as you see, there's too much water. Even yellow ochre is slipping. So my color quantity in brush has to increase. This is how you get to know that when you need to use more water, when you need to use more color. And you just dab over here. You don't go painting here, you just go pointing here. Right? No painting but pointing. Now I'll again move to green. Now here, if you notice, my brush is not moving. So tip of the brush, color, and there you go. Now let's move to another color. Now when I'm moving to a lemon yellow or gamboge, wash your brush so that green is not there. And just places where you want to add a bit of light effect. Just take water in the brush. And just see, I am holding the brush here and just touching the tip. Just give a blend to it. Now let's just add long bushes or haze. For that, hold your brush 90 degrees. You will be seeing the color which is at bottom is pulling it. And that's the best part, it's getting blended with it. Now let's take a little bit of lighter shade. So I'll go with lemon yellow. Make use of the tip of the brush. I'm using brush number 6 right now. I was using brush number 0 before this. Now make use of the tip. Don't use the entire bristle or the hair of brush. Just use the tip. And there's no particular a specific, I would say that okay, hold it like this and like that. So you have to just hold at the metal part and 90 degrees and just keep the smooth part free. Rest on your wrist, rest on this part. You see, this is how you rest it. I mean, you rest your hand. While making this kind of work. Don't be afraid of messing your palette. Well, we artists are anyways going to mess up our work a lot. And if our palettes are clean, people are like, oh my god, what's wrong? So let's not give that opportunity to people and always keep a palette fully messy and full of colors. But yeah, when you have no space in your palette left, please make sure you clean them. Otherwise, you will be all like, oh my god, where are my colors? Right? So, there you go. You would also be seeing, if you're looking at the other YouTube videos and Pinterest videos, you might often see that people are using hairdryer. Now in hairdryer, let me tell you what happens is, the hairdryer is used generally when water has dried almost 50% on your paper, not before that. Otherwise, with the movement of hairdryer, water will go here and there, spoiling the direction and the flow of color that you would want. So hairdryer is not immediately used after applying water. It is given some time, at least some couple of seconds, when 50% of water has dried up on your paper, when the color will not be moving as the pressure of the breeze or the blow from the hairdryer. So you can give a try to that, but in my opinion I would not suggest that, because that also brings out a little dry effect to your work. Now here, if you see, I'm just moving with the dry brush. Here in this place, water has completely dried. So I'm also moving with just the colors in the brush. I'm not adding any water. I'm just using the water which is there in color. I'm not adding any color to my brush. I'm not taking extra water. And I'm just using this water. You can see water here. Just using this water. Now this is almost dry. Now let's come to this part. Now this we can add a bit of curvy bushes. Well, this is the name given on by my own. I've given the bushes name as signature bushes, curvy bushes, stroke bushes. So these bushes I call as stroke bushes. The curved ones that I wet, I call them curvy bushes. Right, and then signature is, remember we used to just sign like this when we were kids. Well, I'm not doing that one here. I'm just making use of the color which is here and spreading with water which is there on my paper. Now I think it will be a little bit clear to you why I added blue at my base, because it's basically a water puddle which is completely full of bushes and green and or mud water which has a lot of small like in farm areas we see. Now when your brush just denies to move, that is the time you take water. Otherwise, just play with water which is there in your paper when it comes to third and final layer. I'm just taking a little bit of green too, I'm working with emerald green basically here, emerald, and that's a mix of emerald and viridian in my brush.